7/2024 is 5 p.m. Call to order. I now call our meeting to order. Time 5 o'clock. Roll call by Dr. Gina Potter.
Thank you, Board Vice President Zenaida Rosario. This is roll call agenda item number 2. Good evening, everyone. Board member Mrs. Rosalia Calasige.
Present.
Board member Rudy Lopez.
Here.
Board clerk Antonio Martinez.
Present.
Our board vice president Zenaida Rosario.
Present.
And our board president is absent this evening due to illness. We have a quorum of 4.
Number 3, agenda. Corrections and additions to the agenda. Correct consent calendar agenda item 14D. 14 language change to say agreement with Colby Technologies Incorporated for facilities, program and project management support, and approve the agreement with Colby Technologies Incorporated for $600,000 to provide program management support services for the capital facilities and maintenance projects by the Facilities Assistance Service Team, FAST, for FY school year 2024-2025. Cost implications will be paid from general obligation bonds, developer fees, 2021 certificates of participation, COPs, refunding, and general routine restricted maintenance account funds.
Madam President, Madam VP, I'd like to approve the agenda with your correction. I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda with your correction.
Second. Antonio Martinez made the motion, Rosalia seconded the vote. We'll take the vote.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. It passes 4-0. Item 4, public comment or communications on closed session items. No, this one. Okay, ma'am. 5, governing board. We will recess to closed session in accordance with section 54954.5 regarding 5.1. Government Code Section 54957.6, conference with labor negotiators. 5.2, Government Code Section 54957, public employee discipline, dismissal, release, or reassignment. 5.3, conference with legal counsel, pending litigation. Number of cases 2. 5.4, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. Number of cases 2. 5.5, Government Code Section 54957.6, conference with labor negotiators.
Madam VP, I'd like to recess to closed session at 5:03 p.m. Make a motion to recess.
I'll second.
Motion made by Antonio Martinez, second by Ms. Calasige. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We will now convene into closed session. going to be live streaming. And so just to let everybody know that we knew.
In case we all want to become influencers, actually.
So we reconvene at 6:07, and there is nothing to report out from closed session. Our roll call, Dr. Potter, will do the roll call now.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our board meeting. Agenda item number 7 on roll call. Board member, Mrs. Rosalia Palestino.
Present.
Board member, Mr. Rudy Lopez.
Here.
Board clerk, Mr. Antonio Martinez.
Present.
Board vice president, Mrs. Zenaida Rosario.
Present.
And our board president, she is out sick this evening, and that's Irene Lopez. We do have a quorum of 4.
We will now do the flag. Please stand. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, to the republic, nation under God, indivisible, and justice.
Now we will do the board recognition and distinguished champions, and I will now call forward Ms. Souza.
Evening, board vice president, board members, superintendent cabinet, members of our audience. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. We will start our distinguished champions with our assistant superintendent of pupil services, Mr. Russell Little. Who has a couple of recognitions starting with our fantastic sci-fi team.
Thank you very much. And I'll ask our Director of Educational Services, Mr. Ramos, to join me up here. And good afternoon, board members, Dr. Potter. Recently at SeaWorld, our fantastic sci-fi teachers, headed by the lead sci-fi teacher, Leona Davis, they were honored with the Classroom of the Future Dream Team Award, and it was a wonderful event. It was just a tribute to their creativity and their innovation and all of the inspiration and wonderful projects they do with our students. So at this time, we would like to call them up and to receive this great award. And I'll let Mr. Ramos say a few words if you'd like.
The board, community staff, it's a great honor to work alongside this fabulous team and Dream Team Award. Wow, what a great name for this team. Mr. Little and I are so proud of the team. We feel that given the opportunity to shine, they go out and they bring these awards and they do a magnificent job with our students. We're so proud to be part of this team. Thank you so much for all that you do.
So with us tonight, we have Leona Davis. And then the other teachers that were receiving awards but cannot be here tonight are Melissa Haffmeyer, Janelle Wright, Allison Rake, Rudy Constantino, Veronica Hernandez, Eugene Yepes, Leticia Lemos, Thelma Sotelo, Vanessa Murphy, Juanita Nunez, John Richardson, Diego Peña, Socorro Santos, and Elba de Baca.
One more, Mr. Little.
Where's the other is?
One, two, two. Oh. Congratulations.
We got two more.
Thank you. Okay, now we will welcome Vice Principal of Ocean View Local Elementary School, Ms. Phoebe Castellano. Here to recognize some of her teams.
Good evening, esteemed board members, Dr. Potter, colleagues, and committee members. I am honored to speak before you today to acknowledge and celebrate the incredible work of Ocean View Hills custodians, administrative assistant, and administrative clerks. Throughout the year and during the summer, our custodians have gone above and beyond to ensure our school remains clean, safe, welcoming environment for our staff, students, and our community. Their dedication and hard work shine brightly, positively impacting everyone who walks through our doors. From early mornings to late evening, they tackle every challenge with a smile and a solution, ensuring that our facilities are maintained and shine with pride. Their unwavering commitment during the summer when our school is quieter, yet the work still very demanding, is a commendable and deserves special recognition. Equally vital to our school success are our administrative assistant and administrative clerks, who are the heartbeat of our administrative team. They manage the complexities of our day-to-day activities with grace, expertise, while answering countless inquiries, managing schedules, and supporting our staff and students. Their contributions are indispensable. Their friendly faces, helpful attitude, create a warm and organized environment, making Ocean View Hills a welcome place for everyone. To our custodians, administrative assistant, administrative clerk, thank you for your tireless efforts, attention to detail, and unwavering dedication to our school. You are our unsung heroes. You make Ocean View a place where everyone wants to be. Thank you. The first thing I'm going to give is for Ms. Sophia. Thank you. Georgina Ibarra. Celia Ramos. Mr. Raul. And Mr. Christian Cortez. And I'm gonna tonight, I will let them know about all the applause you gave them. Thank you.
Yes. Oh, wait, one more. She's coming. Who's speaking?
Ocean View.
Number one.
Nice.
Let's turn for our chief business official, Marilyn Adrianson. And she is here to congratulate with a very special recognition, our technology team.
You know, Ms. Christina. Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Potter, and community. Tonight, it is with great pleasure that we recognize the technology department for their commitment to ensuring that every classroom and office are fully equipped with proper technology devices, and for their continuous support at all school district events, including tonight, and all board meetings. Please join me as we honor and thank each member of the technology team. And we begin with our information systems analyst, Jose Luis Mejia. Next, we have Fernando Martinez. We have Mr. Jose Garcia, information computer specialist. Next, we have Ivan Manriquez, information computer specialist. We have Gianfranco Figueres Mejia, information computer specialist. Ms. Carolina Jaime, data reporting analyst. And this wonderful dynamic team is led by our own Todd Lewis. He's also known as Jake Cronenworth. Was that there?
Promise, no sweater. I promise. I gotta know.
Welcoming our finally Deanna Davis, very quick to the podium. Because she has a few percentages survived.
So we have half of our team out of the country, but we do have two of our very own here in Mazatelo. We also have Diego Pena with us today.
I'll take a photo.
You guys are the stars of the hour. It's a little. One, two, three. Congratulations.
Number 10, public comment, communications and open session items. There are none this evening. Before we begin we don't have public comment, but, we do want to inform everyone that all translations will be done by headset if necessary. So if any member of the public would like translation from either English to Spanish when the speaker is speaking or Spanish to English. When the speaker is speaking in Spanish, please go to the translator Pablo Science in the back table to pick up your headset. Items from the board and superintendent.
Up to you, Madam VP, who do you wanna?
I'll start with Rudy.
Keep enjoying your summers. Thank you.
No pressure. So thankful. I was sad to miss this year's promotion ceremonies. We were on vacation. I did not plan that well. So I really hate missing that. It's such a beautiful time, but this community would not be where it's at without everybody here and those that are not here. This community keeps moving forward, getting stronger, more faithful, more ambitious with every year, and it's been a privilege to be on this board. I think elections are coming up, like, oh my gosh, am I supposed to run this year? But you know, it's been a very humbling experience to learn from all of you and to watch the magic that you guys do every single day. And you are our community heroes, raising tomorrow's community heroes. So have an amazing summer. We're looking forward to a new school year, which is literally already here. So onward and upward.
Thanks, everyone. I want to wish everybody again to have a great summer. For all the distinguished champions, congratulations. Mr. Lewis, your team is awesome. Your IT team is, I'd say, the best in the county. Thank you for everything you do. You know, a lot of times we take things for granted. Having this meeting set up, even just in and of itself, is hard work. So I just want to say thank you for everything you do. Thank you also, whoever helped set up our streaming service. Miguel, I know you were something behind that. So Christine, everybody involved, around the clock. I guess my next question would be, if we start getting a lot of likes, will we have like another source of revenue? I don't know. These are the possibilities, because you see someone on YouTube or something, like, I want to do that. The next thing you know, we're talking about horror movies, and that's how we're making our money. No, but I'll really seriously, I just want to thank you for setting this up. It's awesome. The sci-fi team, again, I'd say county renowned Dream Team Award. Congratulations to that. Our Ocean View Hills team. Thank you, Miss Vicky, for everything you do as well. Just really to say thank you. And that's pretty much it from my end. I'm looking forward to the next school year. But in the meantime, keep on enjoying your time off and enjoying before we start. Thanks.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone who is present this evening in the heat of summer, but it's always nice to be someplace where all the ACs. We want to make sure the AC is working at every school site so that no child will go into a room that's hotter than 72 or 75. I want to just congratulate all our champions this evening. When I'm asked what makes San Ysidro such a special place, it's the people. Really, everyone who works here, you have committed yourselves to a wonderful community. When people say it's just such a tiny little place right before you hit the long borderline, there's probably more people on the borderline going into Tijuana and coming across. But it's really San Diego's best kept secret. And what makes us so unique, having been a teacher here for 40 years, is the sci-fi team. You are the heart of what nobody else has, like the way you are. It's a dynamic group of leaders and teachers that I know my students, when I would say on Thursday, sci-fi day, was like, I'm not missing that day for sure. So I know that it is something really wonderful that we are giving this experience. And I read this past summer many scholarships through the Women's Club. And many of them are now notating in their essays how they were inspired by STEM. And having gone to this last fair, some of them said, when they were told to do their community hours service, and they say, you need to go to that fair, maybe you can help. And they're like, fair, I think they were thinking Del Mar, like people. And they wrote in their essays that it was one of the best experiences for them. And now they want to go into the field. So we are role models for our technology team. I know my last few years as a teacher, I'm not techy, so the first one of the new groups that came in was Ivan. You would go in there and explain it to me like ABC and made it clear. And it used to be times when I would put in a work order, it would take almost a month, so I'd have to call my husband with a techie to come in and help me. And that is something that no longer happens in this district, and that's the way it should have always been. So I really, really thankful, and just, it's so nice when every school and every leader, every principal gets an opportunity to really shine the people who work in their school site, because sometimes we only see each other in a huge group twice. At the beginning, we come back, and then at the end, if there's recognitions or people retiring. But there's a big need to always stay so connected, and I think it's so important that we do this. Also, the champion recognitions at our board meeting are very, very important. Everybody sitting in this room, you are very important to our community and our district, and I thank you. So keep enjoying your summer. I know for teachers, my grandson who is 6, we have a calendar. He says, when do I go back? Pretty soon. He said, when is time flying now? I said, wait till you get to be my age. I need more time. To get everything I need to get done. But I thank, all of us, the leadership, our team here, wishing Ms. Lopez to feel better soon, and just thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to serve each and one of you in our community, especially the children. And I've run into quite a few this summer around my neighborhood, and they're like, when do you go back to school? And I do want to say I was invited to a graduation party from a former student who ran into me at the Smythe graduation. And the mom came and said, at the kindergarten graduation in 2012, she knew the year, she said, you said, if we get accepted to college or anywhere that was going to continue our education, to come look for you and to invite you to a party. And I told them, I don't know where I'll be, but you can always find me. They all know my house is the one that gets decorated big time for Halloween. So the mom came and looked for me and said, that Laia is graduating from high school, you got accepted to a university in New Mexico. And we really want you to come. And so she left me a note on a napkin in my front door, and then she went again and said, was this the right house? And I called her, I said, yes, it's the right house. I will be there. And it was so wonderful. They had pictures of him since he was in kinder, and really exceptional student, high school quarterback from Montgomery High School. And he's going to a university near Las Cruces. I can't remember, but he was very excited, and his parents were just saying how much they were, their gratitude to our district for giving their children, it's 3 of them, an opportunity to really just grow as a person and really be able to find their future. And so, and they were students too. One of the uncles was my student, and he was 30-something years old. So the whole family, so it was really always nice. The kids will remember. And sci-fi, I know they will continue to always say, we want more. Maybe we can clone all of you and have it twice a week instead of once. But we really are very grateful for all that you do and everybody. So you pat all of yourselves on your shoulders, because what you do is, I'm so proud. I'm always very proud. Los directores también. That's fine. I'm on board here. Conference session
Thank
number
Dr. Potter.
12. Oh, Dr. Potter, I'm so sorry. Oh, we're sitting at different, how that goes.
Well, welcome everybody. It's wonderful to see you all back. I hope you had an absolutely wonderful summer. I know it was short,
but from some of you who I spoke to, it sounds like you spent some great family time with your family. Some of you traveled to the most wonderful places. And I hope you have the opportunity to just recharge your batteries and re-energize yourselves, because the work that each and every one of you do in our San Ysidro family for the 4,500 students that we represent, it's a work from your heart. And so I know you give it 200%, and I'm happy that you had some time to take off. With that said, Leanna Davis and your incredible sci-fi team, oh my goodness, to win the very first Dream Team Award of Classrooms of the Future, I think we need to give her another round of applause. And to our tech team, I see them sitting in the back, Mr. Lewis, and your small but mighty team. You know, I really saw how incredible your team was during the pandemic. And you had every student with a device, every student on the internet, every student having the ability to continue to learn despite that pandemic. Your team played an incredible role. And then today I crossed the street because they were prepping the auditorium at Sims for our welcome back event that's happening in about a week and a half. And oh my goodness, the surround sound system that they created for that event, it was so wonderful. They turned on, they really pumped up the music for me, and I had a dance session this afternoon in that Sims auditorium. So thank you. Another final clap for our team. And it's a rare district that takes the time to recognize family members who aren't always recognized. So Vicki from Ocean View Hills, thank you for seeing those people who work day in and day out and do the heavy lifting to keep your school running, right? Your office staff, your custodial team, thank you for valuing them and inviting them here to the board to be seen and to be heard and to be honored for the incredible work that they do at your school. Every time I go to your school, it's humming along. So way to go, Dolphins. So I'm very pleased to announce that we will welcome back about 650 staff members to our new school year, 2024-2025, on Wednesday, July 24th, right across the street at San Ysidro Middle School. And boy, I know it's a welcome back, but it's going to be quite wonderful. So welcome back to our new school year officially. And students, we open our doors for our students on Monday, July 29th for their first day of school. And I know that we're ready. So anyway, welcome back to the new school year. It's wonderful to see you all.
Number 12, conference session, reports and presentations. 12.1, PARS 115 Trust, OPEB pre-funding program presented by Ms. Rachel Sanders of Public Agency Retirement Services. Welcome.
All right. Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Potter and community. Glad to be here. As mentioned, my name is Rachel Sanders, and I am a vice president of consulting with PARS, Public Agency Retirement Services. So in the past, we've actually presented to your board on a different program, early retirement incentives. So glad to see you now in this context where we will be explaining our 115 Trust program. So let me get started here. Oh, did I get it? Okay. Thank you. Just like technical difficulty. Okay. So I will start by just giving a brief overview of what OPEB is. So OPEB stands for Other Post-Employment Benefits. And for the purposes of tonight's conversation, you can think of that as your retiree medical liability. So folks that work here are fortunate that the district does offer generous retiree medical benefits to its employees, but with that come additional costs to the district. And so, like many other districts in the state of California, San Ysidro Unified School District has been using what's called a pay-as-you-go method, meaning that as those retiree medical expenses come due, you pull money out of your general fund to pay those costs. So tonight we're talking about a tool that you can use called a 115 Trust.
to actually start pre-funding those liabilities. And this is really something that's beneficial because the pay-as-you-go approach, while used by many districts, is something that may not be sustainable long-term. We've seen the trend that healthcare costs are going up. You may have more folks moving into retirement and see an increase in those benefits that you have to pay out. And so really pre-planning for these types of costs is something that's really fiscally prudent for districts to start doing. All right, so let me give a little bit of background on what a 115 trust is for those that may not be familiar with the concept. A 115 trust is effectively a vehicle that can be used by school districts or other local governments to pre-fund any essential obligations or liabilities, such as your retiree healthcare or even your pension costs. So PARS is actually the pioneer of OPEB 115 trusts, and we actually set up the first 115 trust back in 2004 for Ontario Montclair School District. So we have a lot of experience in working with other districts up and down the state on these programs. We're one of the leading providers in the state of California, and so this is one of our core competencies, in addition to the term incentives, which you also know us for. The beauty of a 115 trust is that once you set money aside into the trust, it's irrevocable, meaning that it is insured to only be used for the intended purpose of retiree healthcare costs. So it can't be used for other purposes, and you're really shoring up that those monies are there if and when you need them to pay those future retiree medical costs to your employees. So it's a great way to securely set money aside, and there's a number of other benefits that come along with that we'll talk about. So the PARS 115 Trust team is comprised of 3 different companies that you'll see on the screen here. So at the top, you have PARS, the Trust Administrator and Consultant. We are the main point of contact for the district. We would help establish the trust, get all of the legal documents in order. We monitor all money coming in and out of the trust, provide all the ongoing reporting, help with the accounting, etc. But there are some roles that we don't serve. One of which is actually holding the money. So that responsibility falls to our trustee, US Bank. They provide that fiduciary oversight and custodian of the assets in their role. And then you'll see on the bottom right-hand corner, PFM Asset Management. They serve as the sub-advisor to our trustee, US Bank. So ultimately, as we're going to explain during the course of this presentation, there's investment flexibility that comes with the 115 trust. And the district does not itself have to make those investment decisions. Those portfolios are managed by a company called PFM. And so we provide you with the options, but ultimately they are overseeing those portfolios and ensuring that those investments are diversified and invested in a prudent fashion for the 115 trust. All right. I know that oftentimes districts like to see which of their neighbors are participating in these programs. And so this gives you a small sampling of our client list. We actually have over 300 agencies in the state of California currently in this 115 trust. But you can see here we highlighted some of the school districts and bolded those nearby that have also used it. Most recently, South Bay Unified, I know not too far from you, established the OPEB trust. So again, you'll see a lot of their surrounding school districts also participate. Okay, so this next slide may contain information that you're familiar with. In chatting with Marilyn, it sounds like the district has seen reports from Neidhart, the actuary on OPEB liabilities. And so this is just a general overview and summary of where you're currently at with your OPEB liabilities. So as you'll see there at the top, the district's current OPEB liabilities are just about $16.5 million. So because you're utilizing, again, what's known as the pay-as-you-go method, there are no assets that are counting toward that liability to offset it and reduce your net OPEB liability. So that's where the trust comes into play. When the district decides to set money aside into the trust, where it says $0 on that page, you would be able to reflect any assets that are set aside in the trust on that line item, therefore reducing your net OPEB liability. And that is a great thing for both your balance sheet, which is accounted for under what's called GASB 75 for OPEB, and it also reflects positively in your actuarial valuations as well. So the nice thing about this trust is, although the money is securely set aside for OPEB, you can certainly tap into those funds if you find yourself needing to get at that money to pay your annual retiree medical costs. If we look at that last line, it looks like those costs are roughly around $450,000 per year. So in a given year, if the district is in a difficult financial situation, you could in theory say, "Part we want a reimbursement of $450,000 from the trust to pay our expenses for this year," and that's absolutely fine, as long as they're being used for that intended purpose and retiring medical benefits. Actually, let me go, there we go. One more thing I wanted to mention on this page is the discount rate. So I won't go too far into the weeds on the discount rate. It can be a little bit of a confusing topic, but one of the benefits of the trust that we'll talk about is the ability to diversify investments. And so you're assigned a very conservative discount rate, which is really more or less meant to be the expected rate of return on your investment. So when you have money in your general fund only for OPEB, you're very restricted to how you can invest those funds. It's a very conservative pool of money that's being invested. Once you move money out of your general funds and into the 115 trust, you can invest in portfolios that do have some level of stock exposure. And that can actually increase your discount rate, which in turn lowers your overall liability. So there's actually a nice offset that can occur as well, just through investing and getting a better discount. So some of these points I've already mentioned, but I'll hit the highlights that we've heard from other districts as to why they want to utilize a tool like this to address their OPEB liabilities. We've talked a lot about the ability to diversify investments. So I would say point number one, is certainly something that resonates with a lot of boards and other districts. The ability to get a greater rate of return on your assets is really something that can be valuable long-term. If you are able to get the benefit of compounding interest over time through diversified investments, that can help grow that pool of money so that when the time does come that you do want to start utilizing those OPEB benefits to pay out your retirement medical costs, that pool has grown at a more significant rate than it would have if it was just sitting in your general fund. So that's a big reason that a lot of districts like to use these 115 trusts. We talked about the ability to get a higher discount rate, and I mentioned with that comes then that offset of lowering your liabilities as a result. So again, this is a great way to ultimately lower those total OPEB liabilities. We also talked about the fact that once you have assets in the trust, you can offset that on your balance sheet. So it's a great way to show that your district is taking prudent financial steps to lower those net OPEB liabilities. And under GASB 75, that is a line item that is now shown on your financials. And then we've also heard from a number of public agencies that have actually reduced their borrowing costs. So this is something that can positively affect your credit rating, because again, I know credit companies do view this as a very favorable tool when they are looking at districts that may look to out to bonds or things like that. Yes, Dr. Potter.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. On the last slide, would you just explain GASB, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, of who they are and what they do?
Absolutely, yes. So yes, I apologize. There's a lot of acronyms in tonight's presentation, GASB being one of them. So GASB stands for Governmental Accounting Standards Board, and that is really the board that determines how these liabilities are accounted for. So for OPEB, I mentioned that there are accounting standards called GASB 75. So that speaks to how these liabilities are accounted for in a district's financials. So one thing that GASB does allow you to do on your balance sheet is if a district has a 115 trust set up, they will allow you to offset any money in that trust against your liabilities. So currently, when we were looking at your liabilities, we showed a fiduciary net position of 0, meaning that you don't have a trust set up and there's nothing to offset those overall liabilities. But again, GASB would allow you, let's say, for example, you had $1 million in a trust, then suddenly on your balance sheet, you could actually show a reduction of 1 million for your net liability. So those are the accounting standards that allow you to do that. And thank you for asking for the clarification. I know it's not common terminology. So regarding the different investment options available on this platform, we understand that every district has different objectives for how they may like to utilize this trust. And not only may they have different objectives, but they may have different risk tolerances. We work with some districts that are very conservative and some are willing to take a little more risk. Some districts have maybe a shorter term need for the money and some plan to invest that money as long as they can. So All of these factors really determine which investment mix may make the best sense for your district. But these are, of course, conversations that we have with districts once they do set up the trust. So as you'll see on page 7, you have an array of options ranging from a very conservative fixed income only option, which has no stock exposure, conservative option, which has about 40% in stocks, balanced, which has about 60% in stocks, and then there's a growth-oriented profile with about 75% in stocks. So as you would expect, as we're going down to the bottom right, the risk profile is increased, but so are the long-term return expectations. So again, this is really about managing the conversation about which investment strategy may make the best sense for your district, because in our experience, every district chooses a different strategy based on the feedback that we do get. And then for those that are interested, this is the composition of those different portfolios on slide 8 here. So again, you can see that these are all well-diversified portfolios and they're very low cost, which is also important for districts. We aim to keep the cost very low, as we know that fees are always something that can eat away at returns and something that districts are mindful of. So the expense ratios are also listed, and you can see that even the most expensive portfolio, the growth is only about 5 basis points in terms of those weighted expense ratios, which is very low cost. And then we also are always fully transparent on the overall fees in the program. So this next slide goes over those fees. The PARS fees are based on assets in the trust for the district. So in theory, if you set the trust up and you never put any money in, you will be charged nothing. So there's no setup fee. So this is something that you can kind of have open and on the shelf for a year in which it makes sense to potentially move money into the trust. Our program does not require any minimum contributions. It's fully flexible and can be determined for the district in terms of what makes sense for you financially. Once monies do get moved into the trust, that's when those fees do when they are applied, excuse me. So the PARS fees start at 0.25% of total assets under 10 million, and then are reduced as assets grow. PFM and US Bank, our trustee, actually have combined fees. And the nice thing about their fees is that they are based on all assets for every participating agency, not just your school district. So there's currently over $878 million under this PFM arrangement. And so the current fees are blended based on those assets at 7.6 basis points. So they're very low cost. And so all in, the most the district would ever be paying is just over about 30 basis points. So just shy of 33 basis points for PARS, US Bank, and PFM. That's 0.33% of total assets. And certainly there's the ability to go lower as assets do grow, not only for your district, but for other districts as well. And then finally, this page just goes over the steps to implementation. So ultimately, if the board were to decide to approve the establishment of this 115 trust this evening, we would work with the appointed plan administrator to send over all the legal documents for execution. And during that period of time, we would discuss the investments available. So as I said, it's conversation that we get feedback from the district to help decide which strategy makes the best sense for your district at this point in time. And it can also be changed down the road. So I will note that you're not locked into the initial strategy if dynamics do change here. Once we received all of those return documents back to the PARS office, we have the trust set up, usually within about a week or two, and then it will be ready for the initial contribution, which again, is completely up to your district if you do want to contribute in the short term, or if it's something that's more of a long-term goal you have, again, you wouldn't be charged anything until you do decide to contribute down the road. One service that PARS does pride itself on is meeting with each of our member agencies at least annually. So once you do start pre-funding into the trust, we would set up an annual meeting with the team to review all of the investment performance, plan activity, and of course discuss any potential adjustments that are needed. But PARS prides itself on customer service, and of course will be available at any time throughout the year, even outside of those one-year check-ins, to present to your staff and the board as needed. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Ms. Sanders, so first of all, I appreciate your presentation, comprehensive, so it's good. The only thing is that I'm looking at it from a cost-effective strategy. So we pay as we go. That's what we have right now. I know you mentioned some type of cost saving going through PARS instead. What additional benefits aside from that? Just because for me, if we're gonna be investing money, I don't wanna be gambling with that type of money. So if we were to pursue that route, I would definitely, at least this is me, wouldn't wanna be, choosing the growth one. I'd rather do the conservative one, just because, again, we don't know how that, no one has control as to how that goes. But the benefit of investing, obviously, that you're gonna get a little bit more. But how, I'm looking at your fee, so how is that cost savings? Like, what's the benefit of, like, why would I choose you? Instead of just basically going as we go?
Yeah, great question. So I would say, I would answer your question in a few different ways. So utilizing the pay-as-you-go method not only limits your return potential, as you point out. So I completely understand where you're coming from and not wanting to take an overly aggressive approach. And I will tell you, in my history in working with school districts, that is a very common sentiment. So that's why we do have portfolios that have a lesser degree of stock exposure, so that, for those that are more sensitive to potential volatility and risk, they can choose something that's more in their comfort zone. So first, I would say one of the big benefits of diversifying the investments is not only the potential to earn a greater rate of return and grow those assets, but it's also the fact that you get actuarial valuations done every 2 years. That was that report by NICO that I was referring to. And the actuary will actually factor in whether or not you have a 115 trust when they do those valuations. So what we've seen from districts that are actively refunding into a 115 trust is that they get a higher discount rate assigned. And again, the big benefit of that is that it can lower your total OPEB liability. So it's something that can really make a meaningful impact longer term of those massive liabilities that you currently have. So that's a big benefit. In addition to that, we talked about GASB 75, which are those accounting standards, and being able to reflect a lower net OPEB liability on your balance sheet is another big benefit. Utilizing the pay-as-you-go method, you won't be able to do that. Even if you have money earmarked in your general fund, those won't act as a direct offset to that OPEB liability. It's only once they're in the trust. So, there are certainly fees associated with the program. But I think just over 30 basis points or 0.3% of total assets, we would expect returns to significantly outperform whatever those fees would be. So I think with all of those benefits in mind, that's really the argument I would make for the market.
Great.
Sure.
Within the trust, can you blend the different? Can you put so much money into a conservative and so much money?
Good question. Yes, we actually have had agencies do that. So I'll give you an example. I have worked with an agency that wanted to they had a shorter term need potentially for some money. So they put that in a fixed income account so that it's still being offset on their balance sheet. And then they had a longer term bucket of money, which they put into one of the portfolios that had some equity exposure so that they could really see that as more growth opportunity for this money. So yes, there is that opportunity as well. Sure.
And is there a deadline for the district? I guess that we're discussing, with Marilyn and superintendent and our budget. Is there a deadline as to when the district would have to commit to this trust fund if they decide to move forward?
Great question. So if the district decides to proceed with establishing a 115 trust, there's no commitment to fund the trust. And in fact, I will tell you that I worked to set up trusts with some districts years ago that still haven't necessarily had funds to set aside in the trust. And so they're not being charged anything. It's really something that they wanted to set up as a tool if and when they're in a positive budget space where they do have extra money set aside. So no, there's no deadline. This plan is really designed to be flexible to meet the needs and the timing of each unique district that sets up the plan.
So there's no obligatory annual contribution or minimum?
No, not at all. No required contribution, no minimums. It's 100% at your discretion.
And are there fees for withdrawing funding early?
No, so there is no fees apart from those asset-based fees on that slide that we showed you. There are no other fees. So no trading or transaction fees associated with investments, no withdrawal fees. Everything is strictly based on the assets, and there's nothing else outside.
Yeah, because a lot of times do things like prepayment penalties on insurance policies and things like that. So there's nothing like
No, there is no other fees outside the asset-based fees. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's a great question because you always wonder what fees there might be.
for sure. I'd be open to something like this. My biggest concern would be that, we're still building up our, school districts reserves, coming out of 2 years, 2 3 very tough years, and going into some more rebuilding years. So, that would just probably be a discussion for Miss Adrian's and which I'm sure they probably already crunched these numbers 1,000 times before even bringing them to a board meeting. So, I'm sure we'll see.
Yeah, no, I agree with Leah. I think that, I think having this as an option is a good thing. I like the notion of not contributing, like having a minimum contribution, just paying, it was basically paying as you go, but for this. So it's actually, I like the option.
No more questions for me. No more questions.
Okay, thank you all for your time. Appreciate it.
13, general administration. 13.1,
Minutes,
minutes,
I'll make the motion.
favor,
Aye.
minutes approved, 4-0. 13.2, approve and ratify temporary certificated management contract offer of employment for Manuela Colon.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. 13.3, approve temporary management and administrative contract offer of employment for Gloria Mena. I make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. 13.4, open public hearing, California School Employees Association initial proposal to San Ysidro School District for successor contract negotiations.
I make the motion, Madam VP, to open the public hearing.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0.
Do we have?
So we would, open it. Do you have any comments or?
No.
13.5, close public hearing, California School Employees Association's initial proposal to San Ysidro School District for successor contract negotiations.
Make the motion, Madam VP, to close the public hearing.
I second.
Go ahead.
Vote. Aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. 13.6. Open public hearing, San Ysidro School District's initial proposal to California School Employees Association for successor contract negotiations.
I'll make the motion, Madam VP, to open the public hearing.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any comments?
No.
13.7, close public hearings, San Ysidro School District's initial proposal to California School Employees Association for successor contract negotiations.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. 13.8, resolution number 2425-0009, establishing annual special tax rate for community facilities districts number 1, number 2, and number 3 for 2024 and 25 fiscal year.
So moved.
Second.
The vote?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. 13.9, resolution number 24/25. 0010, authorizing the establishment of the public agency's post-employment benefits trust administered by Public Agency Retirement Services, PARS.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. 13.10, AB 1200, management and classified confidential. I make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Consent calendar, all items hearing are adopted by one single motion. There will be no discussion of these items prior to consideration of the motion unless a member of the school board or the superintendent requests that any such item be removed from the consent calendar and voted on separately.
So moved.
I'll second.
Take the vote,
And there's no pulls from my end, Madam.
None for me as well.
then for me.
No.
Make the motion.
I make the motion, Ms. Felton, second. We vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn at. That's
7:01.
7:01 p.m.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting.
We're trying to get to 7.